My name is Marlene Yvette, and I am getting ready to go over the facts and documentation as to why I've had to take some time away and go ahead and get the truth out there. Again, my name is Marlene Yvette, and I am actually currently residing in Louisville, Texas, there with my two children full-time, Joshua McDaniels and Mariah Yvette. My son Jonathan Lewis is with me first, third, and fifth weekends and one night out of the week, and my son Isaiah McDaniels is with us quite frequently. Last Wednesday we had a court hearing in Collin County, Texas in the 470th District Court with Judge Emily Miskell. Some of you may know, many of you may know that she was recently appointed by Greg Abbott last October along with Judge Piper McGraw to add two new district courts, family courts, to the Collin County courthouse system there on Bloomdale and McKinney. My case, which was a suit affecting parent-child relationship that started out of an IVD case filed by the Office of the Attorney General in May of 2014, was before Emily Miskell and transferred by Scott Becker and Judge Chris Oldner in around September of last year, 2015. I'm going to go back to the history with Judge Chris Oldner and everything that was going on in a case for my son, Jonathan Lewis. But right now, I want to go over why it is that I'm having to make these videos to show evidence in terms of why we are seeking legal remedy for what they are illegally and unlawfully trying to do. There was a hearing to revoke suspension of commitment against me that was to be held in Judge Miskell's court in the 470th Court last Wednesday, which would have been March 30th, 2016. The revocation of suspension of commitment was with regards to a 14-day jail sentence I was given in an enforcement action filed by Kenneth S. Harder, attorney for Carrie Obafemi Johnson of the Colony, Texas, Ken Harder of Carrollton, Texas, predominantly practicing in Dallas County, but has had quite a number of cases in Collin County, so he's very familiar with local rules. He's been a practicing attorney for about 35 years, been practicing law as long as I've been alive. But they filed an enforcement of possession and access against me last November of 2015 with regards to an October 8th order that was signed in the matter of the marriage of Carrie Obafemi Johnson and Marlene Yvette, and in the interest of Mariah Sarai Yvette, a child. That is our daughter, biological daughter together. And the first problem with that, to any attorneys that may be watching this, is that if there is no current dissolution matter, which is the chapter and the subject matter in the Texas Family Code, a judge cannot sign, issue, and enforce an order where there is no current case. There's no current subject matter. If you look at the Texas Family Code, you'll see that suits affecting parent-child relationship as well as marital dissolution suits are two entirely different chapters. And of course, any attorneys listening to this also know that when you draft pleadings, you need to have the appropriate style cause name, as well as a style cause number. But it said that that order, that temporary order, was in effect until the final decree of divorce. Now, what this means legally is that the suit was not ripe. The order couldn't have been in place until the final decree of divorce because there was no marriage, therefore there was going to be no divorce. It was a not ripe suit. That particular order was also what they call a legally void judgment, because anytime the court lacks subject matter jurisdiction, anytime the court lacks party matter jurisdiction, anytime the court violates due process rights, which are civil rights that all of us citizens have, or anytime the court is guilty of fraud, the orders that they are signing are null and void. They're not voidable, they're just void. If you look at Black Law's dictionary, it explains the law of voids and the definition for that. And so ultimately they moved to enforce a void order that was construed by fraud, that was in the matter of the marriage of a couple that had never been married, that violated my due process rights, And ultimately, when you also look at the original pleadings, it was pled on behalf of Kari Obafemi Johnson, who has not been issued a Social Security number or driver's license. But as I'll show you later on, the beginning paperwork in our case that started as an IVD case turned suit affecting parent-child relationship, he clearly has his last three of his driver's license and Social Security number listed. So I'm not even sure who the party is that they were seeking to give these temporary orders to on October 8th of 2015, but I guess we could probably argue that there's a party matter jurisdiction issue as well. Right now, while we're on the run, not trying to be an attorney, but having to explain this in layman's terms, why ultimately people can understand that I'm not running from anything lawful. Not running at all, honestly, taking the time to not be illegally and unlawfully arrested, incarcerated, and I do believe permanently silenced by Collin County. They would like nothing more for me to stop fighting lawfully and justly, because I have threatened to expose their corruption. Today is the culmination of doing that. Well, all this came to a head as I was fighting legally, lawfully, truthfully through their system, is because finally they've crossed the line. When they issued that October 8th temporary order in the matter of the marriage of, it ordered us to go from supervised visitation facility visits at Faith and Liberty Place in Dallas, where Kari Johnson was to visit with our daughter for 6 months as a child under 3. We'll get into that area of the law later. But also as a man who's been threatening my murder and her kidnapping since 2013 over the issue of child support and supervised visitation. That order went from supervised visitation to supervised visits at his mother, Norma Taylor's house in Dallas, Texas. And I originally began to comply with that order, even though I knew it was illegal and unlawful. I used to have a very high level of respect for the law and our justice system, believing that it worked. 13 and 14 years old, I was a defense and prosecuting attorney for the City of Arlington Teen Court, and every other day of the week people accuse me of being a lawyer, although I'll never accept a bar card, now knowing that it is a card of silence, which means that ultimately when injustice, judges who believe they're above the law and corruption is occurring, it means if I want to keep my license, my right to practice and feed my family, I have to be willing to be secretive of and protective of the judges that are breaking the law. And unfortunately, as God as my witness and my ultimate judge and juror, I will never agree with and just go along to get along with evil, including but not limited to conspiracies for murder, court-sanctioned physical neglect and abuse of children. I can't do it. So I'll never accept my bar card. Making it out of this situation, I probably will be one heck of an advocate. And also help people to understand that a wise man researches what a fool takes for granted. And I hope no one takes offense to that. There's a lot of pro-safe people fighting family court corruption and injustice. And I know all of you have researched and spent countless, endless hours, days, weeks, months, years researching and fighting within a system that was supposed to be designed and governed by laws that ultimately has now been turned into a mockery of the law and our system. And so realizing I can continue to file papers into a court system that's laughing at them, that condones perjury and does not have any respect for the truth, who conceals and hides evidence and colludes with criminals as organized, legalized criminals. My only option was to make sure that as God has given me the grace to keep all of my documentation, and even to give me documentation I didn't want to find, I knew that the only option I had after that Wednesday, March 30th hearing was to trust God, protect my baby girl from going back into the situation I'm getting ready to show you evidence of and not make allegations, show you facts on. I knew that it was time to just trust God, go with Him, and allow Him to direct and guide me. He's been doing that, and I'm so very thankful. March 30th, again, was that revocation hearing to attempt to have me immediately incarcerated in the Collin County Jail for after allowing her visitation for a few visits, and then us having our official orders that were verbally entered February 9th, entered on March 2nd, which means they were officially signed as a final order on March 2nd. The problem that I had with giving her back to her paternal father, Kari Obafemi Johnson, was the condition that my daughter came home in. When she came home on March 24th, after being ordered into 14 days of what they called makeup visits, was something that no parent wants to ever have to deal with. She came back with a very, very bad diaper rash, and no, we're not in this situation because of just a diaper rash. My daughter has had a couple diaper rashes that I've had to seek medical treatment on, and I did seek medical treatment, and she was given prescription medication, and it was addressed. Children will get diaper rashes. The problem is, when those rashes aren't treated, it then starts to teeter on the line of physical neglect, but that's still not even why we're here today. Unfortunately, not only did she come home with a rash that encompassed her entire external vaginal area, started to go up her stomach, went down both sides of the inner thigh on her legs. She also came back, unfortunately, with a swollen vagina 2 to 3 times the size it was when she left. How do I know? February 9th, when we were in court on our final hearing, and the judge ordered that someone go get Mariah and surrender her to the courthouse lobby. I sent my oldest son and my pastor to go get her. Court said that I needed to stay there until the child was brought back. During that time, I did ask my son to go ahead and take a picture of her from head to toe, not for any other reasons besides just to document what she looked like from head to toe before she left. So that way, if anything appeared out of sorts or different when she returned, we would have actual factual evidence and not allegations of the condition of my baby girl before and after a visitation with her father. Now, this was not me expecting anything to come back differently. This was just in case. I know many parents have done this. I know many parents, grandparents have cause and valid reasons to do this. And so the pictures were taken for this particular reason. And so we can say with pictures certainty that her vagina came back at least 2 to 3 times the size it was when she left. The other disturbing sign and issue was that she came back with vaginal discharge and secretions coming out of her. Now, I'm going to take the time to go through these documents because ultimately some people might say, well, you know, some women, some female children automatically have discharge, and that's normal. But unfortunately for her, that was not a normal thing. My daughter was 23 months when she went with her father when she returned, and she had never had discharge before a day in her life. For the first time, I noticed that discharge is coming out of her. Originally, that's how I referred to it, was just discharge. But I also know that an external diaper rash does not cause internal fluids. When she came back, it was my 19-year-old son's birthday, Jeremiah, and he doesn't currently live with us. And so last time we'd all been together as a family, myself and my 5 children, was Christmas. So this was a very special day. I was going to wait for her to be surrendered by her father, go get my 11-year-old son who lives in Allen, my 19-year-old son. On that day, Jeremiah was going to be driving over, and we were all going to just spend just a couple hours together as a family to celebrate his birthday and celebrate being together as a family. So as soon as she was dropped off, immediately that's the mode I went into, was going to get my son, getting the last few items for the birthday party to get back to the house in time for my son's arrival. We did spend a few hours together in that birthday party, enjoying time together as a family, as we do so many times. And then after my son left, probably somewhere around 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in that range, it was time to go ahead and get Mariah ready for bed. So during that time, I went ahead and I put her in the tub, as I normally do. And in putting her in the tub, I put her in the normal water that I normally do, which is, just very mild, warm water. And she was in the water and didn't instantly have any issues or any screaming or anything of that nature. But as I bathed her, like I normally do, I got to, again, a place and point that no parent ever wants to get to when their child has been gone and comes back already with alarming signs. I went to just normally, just kind of swipe over and wash her vaginal area as I do every day, and she completely panicked. She screamed, began to try to fight and close her legs, and of course, that being the third sign that was just absolutely out of control. I got her out of the tub, I laid her on the bed, and noticed that the rash was pussing. It was further irritated. Again, not that I had hot water on her, because if I had had hot water on her, as we're about to go through the records, the hospital documentation would have seen either scalding or anything like that, and there was none. They didn't document any. There's an audio of that ER visit, and so that will also prove what did and didn't happen. So ultimately, it was just that area that could not even tolerate water. Created additional pus, and so I put her diaper on, and I realized that ultimately she needed to be seen by a doctor. Again, I was not jumping to conclusions or quick to run and scream something had happened or allege something happened, and originally I just thought I'll take her to a doctor tomorrow. And then I remembered that unfortunately the current insurance plan that she has requires upfront payment. I didn't have upfront funds, and she was obviously in pain. So I did finally, after we finished a couple of things, I did finally go ahead and take her to the hospital. I'm going to call this part one, and I'm going to stop it right now because I've got some background noise, and I want to make sure that everyone can continue to hear the explanation and also the medical records, as well as the ER records regarding my daughter's situation.